Hello there and welcome back to some more Gran Turismo 5. Today we'll continue on with our Let's Play. This is episode 45. In today's episode we are taking a look at the Sebastien Loeb Rally Challenge, facing off against the 9-time WRC champion and, in my opinion, the single greatest rally driver to ever live, and probably will ever live, let's be honest. Anyways, before we get into that, we of course need to hear from the man himself about what it means to be a rally driver.
Ce que j'aime vraiment en rallye, moi, c'est que contrairement au circuit, c'est très varié. On roule sur différentes surfaces, on roule sur de la terre, sur de l'asphalte, sur de la neige. Les conditions d'adhérence sont changeantes. Comme on ne connaît pas forcément la piste, on a besoin de beaucoup plus d'improvisation dans le pilotage et d'anticipation. Donc en plus, il faut avoir vraiment des styles de pilotage différents suivant les terrains, il faut s'adapter. Et c'est ce qui fait que je trouve que le rallye est vraiment très varié et on ne s'en lasse jamais.
Okay, so let's get into the Sebastien Loeb Rally Challenge. Essentially what these are time trials where you face off against Sebastien Loeb's Ghost using the Citroën C4 rally car from the 2008 WR season, decked out in its Red Bull branding. Because of course, if you were in motorsports in the late 2000s, early 2010s, and you saw a car with Red Bull branding, you'd know it'd make the sport very, very boring. Anyways, the C4, very cool car. I do have to admit, actually, I really like the Citroën C4. One of the most successful rally cars of all time. I believe it was the most successful rally car, but something's usurped it recently and I don't remember what it is. Anyways, these time trials, as I mentioned, use Sebastien Loeb's Ghost, supposedly. I will say supposedly because these are not particularly challenging time trials, it does have to be said. The first one here, of course, on Toscana. There's 3 of them. So you got Toscana, you got Eiger Nordwand, and Chamonix, using the full layout from all of those, which is something the game really does. Toscana you see quite often, but Eiger and Chamonix, you usually forget about the fact that they're actually about 4 minutes long, which poses its own unique problems, which we'll get into soon. But of course, Toscana, you should already know this one. We did take this on in the Grand Tour, and ironically enough, the one in the Grand Tour is significantly more difficult. The time trial in the Grand Tour with the Focus is significantly more difficult than this one against Loeb. I beat this by 7 seconds, which is insane. One thing I will actually quickly point out as well, and I'll point this out until the dawn of time on this one, remember to turn the traction control off every single time you load into these, because for some reason the traction control is on. And unlike in Gran Turismo Rally where you turn it off once and it's done, in this you have to constantly keep turning it on because technically it's a different car. Also, you can see how sloppy I was through this final sector, and yet despite that, there's the finish line, and yeah, we're absolutely going to demolish this time trial. So there you go, my rallying skills are absolutely, I mean, I'm a god basically. If you can beat Sebastien Loeb, I mean, there's no one else who can beat you. 141,000 credits, wonderful stuff. So let's head on to our next challenge, which is going to take us to the Eiger Nordwand, which is big, and also I'm 100% butchering the way you're supposed to say that. The K Trail, supposedly. This one's called. This one is long, and track knowledge is kind of a bit of a part of this. So, unlike in the Gran Turismo Rally, there's no sort of made-up bollocks here, so you can actually learn the track a bit. This first section will probably catch you out immediately, because you've got to go through this weird makeshift chicane. Next section should be pretty known to anyone who's played one of these PS3 era Gran Turismo games. This is the part of Eiger Nordwand that the game liked to use quite a lot. You've seen it in license tests and so on and so forth. So you should be pretty alright through here, just don't get caught out by that corner. I should mention you get disqualified for hitting anything, and as a result of that, that makes this challenge actually, this is the most difficult part of the challenge. Actually beating Loeb's time on these isn't really too bad. It's just a case of trying not to hit anything, and of course, as you try not to hit anything, that will make you more cautious. So you can potentially slow yourself down just by fear alone. Just as long as you get it into the back of your mind that this is not going to be something, this is not going to be a course you get through first time and are great at it. You know, you will push and push, and you'll get like 3 minutes into it, and you think you'll be on a really good run, and then all of a sudden you'll smash into a wall, and then it's closing time, and you do it again. It's all just trial and error between these two longer courses, but again, Loeb, as you can see, not particularly difficult to catch. I should also mention, when I say you can't hit anything, you can't hit anything in a specific way. As I mentioned with the Gran Turismo Rally, the game's way of telling you whether you've hit something or not is a little bit flawed. So as long as you hit it with the back end of the car, it's not really a problem, so long as the front end doesn't come around and smack into it. Because if you have a full front impact, that will certainly kill it. If you have like side front, that will kill it, but sort of rear to the side of the cars, usually not too much of a problem. Also worth pointing out is sometimes it can be a good idea to sort of brake just to get the car corrected. So if you're sliding a little bit too much and you're coming into a complex area, you can sort of slam the anchors on and the car will correct itself round, which is definitely useful. This part of the stage is usually where you make up the most time on Loeb. As you can see, I've passed his Ghost there because he's just very, very slow in this section, and this is the part of the track where admittedly you start thinking, I'm a home free, because it's, you know, it's the last minute, but of course there are challenges to be found up here, particularly in that hairpin right there. You do not want to take too much speed around there and ruin your chances, but as you can see, I've got a pretty comfortable lead here, so if I do have to back off, it's not too much of an issue. And remember, his Ghost does start before you do, so just get a feel for the track. That's the most important part here, and that's the way to do it. And eventually, once this tarmac section is all cleared, you end up back on the road course, which again we know from countless times doing the Grand Tour. Fortunately, the time limit on this is nowhere near as ridiculous as that on the Grand Tour, because the Grand Tour can well and truly get fucked. Not the TV show, the thing in the game. So, yeah. Anyways, as you can see, here we go. We come onto here through the dreaded tunnel section onto that bit down here. Just make sure that you brake appropriately. This car is not quite as awful to drive as an Alfa Romeo 8C, but, you know, maybe the PTSD. As you can see, Loeb overtakes me because I get PTSD through that corner, and I just don't want to deal with that. So, anyways, it's another one where we beat it by well over 7 seconds. Yeah. Not too much to write home about. As I said, the biggest challenge there really is just trying to keep the car out of the walls. But other than that, not really too much to report. And if you do that, you'll get a cool, crisp 141,000 credits into your bank. Pretty good way to make money. As is the Gran Turismo Rally, really, in all honesty. That also makes money quite quickly. Although, well, in the beginner stages. We won't talk about the intermediate and professional stages, but there we go. Anyways, on to the final one, the biggest challenge, Chamonix. Now, when I did this, when I, essentially before we LP a game, or before I LP a game, if I'm not 100% familiar with it, I will do a quick run through. In the case of my run through, I didn't do any of the endurances, but I did go through all the special events and stuff. And I specifically remember Nordwand being the biggest challenge in this, and that's the one that I struggled the most on. I struggled for a good little while on it. Turns out I might have been wrong, because Chamonix is actually the one that's a little bit more of a problem here, and even keeping up with Loeb's AI is actually a bit of a problem here, because I think I ended up completing this at one point and only getting a silver. So the key is just not to be as overly cautious as you maybe want to be. Ignore the braking lines. That's the biggest key with Chamonix, because you really don't need to brake massively through half the times where it says braking zone. In fact, half the time you can sort of ignore that, and then there'll be a second braking line like there, and that will definitely keep you around. So again, it's all just about keeping an eye on the track map, maybe doing a few runs through to get comfortable with where you're going. In all honesty, this one isn't all that difficult. It's just that I was a bit too overly cautious, because it is easier to hit something through here. I got very, very lucky there. Kind of surprised the car didn't get DQ'd there. But yeah, it is easier to slide around on the snow. It's easier to hit something when you're on the snow. But as long as you keep your sort of wits about you, it's another one that it's not particularly difficult. I mean, it's nothing compared to a certain challenge which we will get to later on in the game, which just isn't happening. So, well, there's this one. It is. Anyways, yeah, just don't hit anything. Remember to turn the traction control off. I'll point that out once again, just in case, because yeah, if it's I do not understand why the game enables traction control. It doesn't help you. In case you're wondering, it'll just mean that you make absolutely no progress. Maybe that was the issue. Maybe when Sebastien Loeb came in to set these times, which, let's be honest, he didn't, but you know, when Loeb came in and set these very, very specific times of 0.500s, maybe he had the traction control on. Maybe Polyphony didn't tell him about that, so that's why I'm telling you about it, so you have a leg up on Sebastien Loeb, and you can rewrite history and become a 9-time World Rally Champion and blah 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 blah. With Citroën, of course, which you can't do anymore because Citroën isn't in the WRC because they got bored of not winning, which, I mean, who can really blame them? You know, if you go from being successful to being absolutely, you know, second place, then what's the point in competing? Competing's all about winning, right? Domination and all that. See how long Mercedes stick around in Formula 1 if they don't win a load of races. Anyways, as we're carrying on, almost at the end of this now, not too much longer to go. The end of Chamonix gets a little bit more nice and flowy, less of those sort of hairpin turns, which I do not like. Of course, well, I say that the flowy sections can be deceptive sometimes, because, you know, you'll look at the corners and they actually tighten up a little bit more on the way around, which is not ideal. Once again, did not get disqualified there. No idea how that didn't happen. To be honest with you, when I was talking about, you know, hitting walls with the back end of the car and stuff, it also wouldn't surprise me if it's something to do with how much throttle input you've got on. I.e., if you take your sort of fingers off the throttle, maybe it doesn't punish you as much. I don't really know how it all works, but either way, we are coming round to the final bit of Chamonix, going for a little bit of a drift right up Sebastien Loeb's arse. Never mind, I was completely wrong. I thought I only just scraped through this with the skin of my teeth, but no, as it turns out, I beat it by 8.5 seconds. And I'm absolutely useless at this game, so maybe, just maybe, you can absolutely decimate the times here. I can imagine under 4 minutes there is probably possible. I dread to think the sort of times that people who are actually semi-decent at this game set. Anyways, another 141,000 credits, so we make out of here with a lot. I think it's over 400k, and of course we get prize cars as well, and that is always good. So when it comes to prize cars, what do we get? Well, I hope you like Citroëns, because you are in for a lot of Citroëns. So for beating it with bronze trophies, you get the C3. With all gold trophies, you get the C4 WRC, and for some reason the silver car shows up afterwards, which is the base model Citroën C4. So C3, not a great car, although as we've proved, it's the best French car of all time in the French Car Championships. That one's actually no, actually I prefer my piss yellow car from that episode. The Citroën C4, really cool looking car, I love it, although not massively competitive in the game. And the C4 WRC, which you can of course use for the professional Gran Turismo rally event if you so desire. So let's take a quick look at those. So there is the Citroen C3, which I think I'm going to end up selling because we've already seen what a Citroen C3 looks like. Interesting looking cars. The more I look at the C3, the more, I don't know, maybe that will become a classic one day. Who knows? But I don't know. It's just a weird looking car, isn't it? Again, Citroen C4, it's the 3-door, which looks good, as opposed to the 5-door, which looks a little bit ungainly. Awesome car. I almost bought one of those. When I was getting my Impreza in real life, I was sort of cross-shopping Citroen C4s as well, although I decided not to do it because of Citroen reliability. And then I bought a Subaru and it blew up 4 months after I sold it. Anyways, and then you got the C4 WRC, which of course looks very, very cool. I think I prefer the one that's in Dirt Rally, which is the yellow, red and black car, which I don't think is sponsored by Red Bull, I don't remember. But either way, C4 rally car, pretty cool, and again, that'll be very competitive for the rally event. Anyways, thank you all very much for watching. Next time, we are going to be taking a look once again at the Gran Turismo karting experience, so join us for that. Until then, farewell.
Yes, I will stay here for a while, for I need the break, a break from the bruises of life, and everything is laid in the palm.